morning. It's Viewpoint. I think it's good morning anyway. Program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Gravel Gertie slipped in again this morning, didn't she?
Yeah, sorry about that.
We have personalities this morning.
At first, I thought you were talking about me.
Well,
I remember how she looked. I was really a little offended.
Maybe there's that to be said, too. Well, we have our personalities and perspectives this morning. This is a good day to leave out the politicians' business. As a matter of fact, the way things have been going, probably a good way to leave out the politicians, period, for goodness sake. Let's don't get on that soapbox, Belly. How are you this morning?
Swell.
Well, I'm glad to know that.
And yourself?
Well, I'm here, and that's a big thing.
And last night, where were you?
Well, that's part of my kudos.
Right.
Our friend and neighbor, Troy Hanger, I just happened to see him across the alley, and I said to Troy, I was going down to welcome home the veterans on their honor flight trip, those that went yesterday on that great one-day experience. And I said, why don't you come and go with me? So young Troy went with me, and in the process, I acquired a driver, which I appreciated very much. So kudos to you, Troy Hanger, and I appreciate you going with me. Serious matter. When a veteran is deceased, and oftentimes, and it's a great honor, they had a firing squad to go out there. We do a great job here in Lincoln. Yesterday, I went to Ernie Edwards' interment, and those folks, they really do a nice job. And Bob Sullivan makes a nice presentation at the folding of the flag and so forth, and it's professionally done. So kudos to those folks out there. Announcements. Since we have college personnel on board, let's discuss the fact that we're going to have a jazz concert this Friday. We've got a great fine arts department, and Scotty Woger has got these kids whipped into shape. And so I'd urge you all to come out there. I'm not sure you can afford the admission price. It's going to cost you all of $1. And those that might not have it, Dr. Astroff and I'll stand in line and lend you $1. This would be this would be a nice time to go out there and see what we're doing out there in that fine arts department. So I look forward to that. And I must add, parenthetically, that to aid and assist and abet the fine arts department, the Lincoln College trustees have seen fit to step forward and underwrite the cost to bring the St. Louis Rivermen to Lincoln for a jazz concert on Wednesday, May the 9th at 7 o'clock in the Johnson Center. I would urge everybody to try to avail themselves of that opportunity for a little jazz culture. If you don't like jazz when you get there, you will by the time you leave. The tickets are only $20. There's a little difference between 1 and 20. But and Doctor and I will not make up the difference as much as we'd like.
Even nobility has its limits, I guess.
Yes, nobility certainly has its limits there when he's talked about dollars. But that's going to be a fun evening, and tickets are available at the office of the president. So Wednesday, May the 9th, 7 o'clock. Come on and have a good time. Now, would you like to take over some of this, so I can just sit here and have a cup of coffee?
No, I was just going to sit here and rest.
All right.
Okay. No, I'm very pleased that we have with us Jonathan Ashtroth, and he's been the president at Lincoln College and is going to retire. I feel that since I admire you, President, that I should inform you that I know any number of people, being a little older than you are, who have retired and retired and retired, and I keep seeing them back in the spotlight. So now this will be your second retirement.
That's correct.
Apparently this retiring has become something that you practice. You just make stabs at it until you get it right. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess that's why they call it retire.
I think so. I think that must be. The first one is just your tire.
Point well made.
And from then on you retire. Very good. But also with President Ashta is Bridget Thomas, and she's the Director of Student Services at Lincoln College, and I trust you will not tire or retire.
No, we don't want that to happen.
I won't yet.
Okay.
Okay,
yes.
We'll count on that.
Yeah, she's one of those folks who kind of lower down on the food chain, and just does a remarkably important and a remarkably professional job for us at Lincoln College. Bridget's kind of a go-to girl.
Well, there's something to be said, Bridget, for
or lady, I
being
should say.
lower. I personally am at the bottom of the food chain, but you don't have to go to meetings. So there's something to be said for that.
Yes.
You know, everything has its perks, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
how do you feel about your retire, President Ashcroft?
Well, I feel fine about it.
I don't.
I'm particularly happy with, I think, the board's selection of my successor, John Blackburn. Well-known name in Lincoln, obviously a successful businessman. And
Obviously.
John has already started attending meetings on campus and getting familiar with the operations as a board member. You know, he's familiar with all the policy level stuff, and so he's off to a flying start, and I think it'll be a very easy and successful transition.
Yeah, he's avoided the on-the-job training, having been a board member for how long? So that he really knows the lay of the land. I should think that that would be helpful.
Yeah, and his daughter graduated from Lincoln College as well, so he's seen the college both from the policy making end and from the parent end, which is very important, I think.
And very personal.
Yes, very personal.
Right. So he brings a lot to the table, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He certainly knows more about insurance than I do, I'll say that.
Well, there could be that, Tim, yes. Now, Bill, is a representative of the board there at the college, is very sad to see you go, and I'm sure that that's unanimous.
Well, let me just say that, and I want to share this with the board in general a little bit later, but I feel so lucky having been welcomed the way I was welcomed at Lincoln. It's been really a pleasure to work with people like Bridget. If you move from college to college, you discover one thing: there are really talented and dedicated people at every college. Lincoln College certainly has its share and then some of those people. The Board of Trustees and members of the community have made me feel very welcome. So I really enjoyed my time at the college, and hope that I've contributed to, you know, moving the institution forward in the 21st century in some small way. So it's
Bill
been
would
fun for
assure
me.
you that you have.
That's been a good ride, and we are, as you point out, very fortunate to be able to have a seamless transition from this presidency to John Blackburn's. Having John a resident here, knowing the community, well known throughout the entire state area here, and I'm sure beyond that, and having served as an excellent chairman of the board, it's been a great seamless transition. Now I'd like to ask Mrs. Thomas. By the way, she's part of that Ryan family, you know, the famous Jim Ryan and Sue.
I've heard of them, and there's some other family member too, a fellow named Joe.
Yeah,
Yes, my brother Joe Ryan. Yes.
I seem to know him.
Yes, I think everyone knows Joe in some fashion.
Well, he, perhaps a little more evident than his sister, who just kind of labors hard behind the lines, behind the scenes. Tell us about student services. Specifically, what are the parameters of your job, Bridget?
Student services is an area that we deal with students day in, day out, from the time we open or before we open until the time we close, and after we close, we're constantly dealing with students. The parameters of my position, obviously, first main goal that I have every day that I go into the office is taking care of the students. My duties include housing students, moving students, taking care of residence hall staff, who in turn take care of the students in the residence halls. I also have student activities, which is a huge segment, again, taking care of the students in the activities, the social events, and then I have my own professional development that I try and somewhere slide in.
I want to comment about that, seriously. It's been a joy to watch Bridget achieve her own academic successes while employed at Lincoln College. See, get her degrees and have moved up, and I recall watching first the AA and then the bachelor's degree while she's a full-time worker. So if I had my hat on, I'd doff it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you should be, you are proud and should be proud of that.
What is your student census at Lincoln College this year?
I would say our students are, restate that question to me, would you please?
The census, the numbers.
Oh, excuse me. We are probably for total residents, we are probably 458, 460. Now total, we have commuters also.
Oh, lots of
A lot
them.
of commuters.
And I'm going to say we deal with probably close to 600 students.
Yes, and my granddaughter among the commuter students.
Yes.
You know, there's such a need for a smaller private school. Some kids are ready to hit the ground running at the U of I, and some would be under their bed whimpering because they just can't matriculate into a group that size. And you watch your own kids as they grow, and they're so different from one another. You know, some of mine could have gone off to I don't know where and been just fine, and some, I'm so grateful that there were smaller schools where they could achieve all they could be, you know. And don't you find amongst your people there, your students, that there's a definite need on their part to be a part of a group that's bigger than it was at their high school, but smaller than humongous, you know, and untenable.
I'm not so sure, Judy, that almost all students wouldn't benefit from a smaller institution. The number of students who go to the University of Illinois or Wisconsin or the big land-grant institutions for purposes of a program, an academic program, is probably small. In my judgment, it's more about cachet of the institution and things like that. You know, and the purpose of going to college ultimately is to prepare yourself for the rest of your life. I'm not so sure that that preparation isn't best in a more intimate setting like Lincoln College. I'd encourage, parents and students of parents. I'm the parent of 3 college graduates now, and they went to small, medium, and large schools, across the spectrum. But I, as a parent, always felt that if the more personal attention they got, the happier I was. And that's one of the things I think you can't do well at a big institution.
And there's something to be said for the professor walking across the lawn and saying, "Hi, John," rather than "Hi, number 874, you know?
Well, when we rode up, before we rode up here this morning, we were on the campus, and there's a student walking around that Bridget and I know well.
Sure.
And, you have a 2-minute conversation with that student by first name and things like that. That's almost impossible to achieve at a larger institution.
Oh, yeah. Well, unless
impossible.
you're such a standout person that you're the quarterback.
Yeah,
or
right.
what have
Those
you.
days are long gone.
Which reminds me of quarterback. When I went to go over Champaign in a political science class on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we met at 1 o'clock. And we had in our class, we had 3 football stalwarts, one of whom was 2 of whom were All-Americans. One got killed in the Marines. Anyway, they were never in class on Monday. They might be in class on Wednesday, and they were never in class on Friday, the day before game day. And it's been that way all the time, and it'll be ever thus as far as athletes. Although, hopefully, we're seeing a move towards seeing more of these people who go in there and have seen scholarships at least complete some academic work and get their degrees.
Let's talk a little bit about the scholarship business. At one point I understood that at many institutions, some scholarships just go begging because the people don't research it as well as they might. It was what I was told true? You would know what is true.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's true. That's been true at some institutions I've been at. Students might, scholarships that is, might go unfilled because either students didn't know about them, they didn't research all of the financial assistance available to them. In some cases, the donor of the scholarship restricted the scholarship to such a narrow audience that nobody met the criteria in that particular year. But I would say more often it's as you described, that people simply don't know all of the things that are available. And I think it takes some effort on part of a student to go into the financial aid office or the development office and say, are there any scholarship opportunities available to me that I might not be aware of? Not every student has the wherewithal or the courage to go do that.
Yeah, but you're paid pretty well for just a tad of courage.
That's right.
It's very helpful. Your mother would appreciate it.
Yes, that's true.
This is most certainly true. Would that be your office in part, Bridget? Do you have anything to do with the scholarship
I
business?
sit on the scholarship committee, which looks at students and goes over their application. Mainly it's returning students that I look at. And, I always tell the students when they first start at Lincoln College, the first step you take on that campus, you're beginning to build your reputation. You never know where your name will occur, slide across the desk of someone that you're going to want something later on from Lincoln College. And I talk to them about the scholarship opportunities. And then it does come into play in the spring semester, because I look over the returning students for the next fall, and if they've applied for a scholarship, I say yes. We look at all types of criteria, their academics, what activities they're involved in, how socially they have been on the campus. So I do have a little part in that, in saying, yes, I believe this student is a candidate for this scholarship.
I'm glad to hear you make that point, because I think the younger you are, the less you're able to comprehend what your reputation means to you.
Down the road.
Yeah. When you get, like Bill and me, down the road a couple miles.
Some way down the road.
Don't you know? And I think today, young people have so many opportunities to screw up royally. They've got Facebook and all of these kind of...
and some succeed at that, too.
Very beautifully. And I'm glad to hear you say that you put a little emphasis on this. It's the only thing. Your reputation is the only thing in this life that you're totally responsible for. And boy, I tell you, you can get yourself in a world of hurt if you don't take care of it.
Right now, as a matter of fact, she just called me yesterday, and she is attending St. Francis College of Nursing. She would like to be a student RA. She was a great female student, great academically. Socially, she was just a little bit more of a, I had to kind of every once in a while just set her down and say, hey, which direction do you want to go in your life? She called me yesterday, and she told me her name, and I said, how are you? Fine. She says, you're not going to believe what I need from you. And I said, what? She needs a letter of recommendation. And I just laughed, and she said, please, you know what, I've grown up. She's been gone for 2 years from Lincoln.
She recognized that.
Yes, she did. She said, but I want to thank you. But she said, I know that what you were telling me in your office or on the sidewalk when you saw me, I know now that what you were saying was true. But she was, I also think that you'll write me a letter of recommendation. I said, I most certainly will. As a matter of fact, I know the gentleman who's going to run the interview, so I'm going to call him today.
Good for you.
From the office, and give her a great,
a boost.
A boost. Yeah. Say, yes, she's great. You need to hire her. She'll do a great job. We're
back again to the advantages to not being a mega school. There's just
personal contact.
If she'd called them at the U of I and said, would you, they'd said, holy Friday, I got to go to the files. They wouldn't have any idea what they were talking about. And you say, oh yes, I remember you, my goodness, how are you?
I want to share something about how attuned Mrs. Thomas is to campus environment. So I was standing outside yesterday with him, discussing things with her, and all of a sudden there was some noise. It turned out to be a little kid running. And she's so attuned to listening to what's going on. She ran around the corner right away to make sure it wasn't some students. And I thought that girl is really, she's got her antenna up all the time. Yeah. Bridget, in the process of working with your position, do you have a lot of contact with parents, or is that infrequent?
No, I have a lot of contact with parents, especially for new students. Parents are concerned where their son or daughter is going to reside on campus, making sure that roommate is the right individual. Also, once the students are moved onto campus, if that roommate, according to family members, maybe is not the right individual that they feel is suited for their student, they will start calling. I just sat in on a webinar dealing with parents, and I think that through that webinar, I believe parents also need to be educated individuals on turning their own children loose and taking them to campus and walking away and driving, getting in the car and driving away.
Good point.
I think that's very, very important. And one of my goals at Lincoln is to be able to some way, somehow, for a lack of a better term, I refer to it as a parent manual. And they take home a binded manual of something. Here's who to call for what. Here's some of the emotions you may go through. And have former students, current students, parents, families comment in that parent manual, so that maybe I, being a parent sitting in Schaumburg and I'm missing my daughter, could possibly go back and say, okay, wait, let me look at this manual. I'm a little nervous of my son or my daughter, and they've not called me, but I do think parents are a huge, huge role in also in what we do.
I can remember leaving one of mine at school and seeing her walking across the beautiful grounds, tall, lanky soul that she was, wiping tears. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's like leaving puppies in the country or something. Just nothing here. But you have to do it. You know, that you raise them to be independent people. And when it's time for their independence to kick in, you got to step aside, man. You can't be hanging on to them.
I wonder if Gene's listening to that. Could we make sure now? Could you call her and make sure it's true, so we can repeat this, Mr. Ash? The thing that you just mentioned about the manual and so forth, you see, Judy, that's a proactive as opposed to a reactive situation. That means that they're planning ahead and thinking all the time, at least most of the time, aren't you, Bridget? And, you know, cutting kids loose sometimes is not an easy thing for parents, particularly, well, not necessarily mothers, you know. I know 2 or 3 dads that still try to control things when their kids are 60 years old. You know, it makes a difference, though, to have those things on a planning stage. Just occurred to me that I haven't planned very well, because we probably ought to be thinking in terms of a commercial if the producer is ready.